Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful Monday morning, and it is freezing outside today. We got Miss Annie hanging out, staying warm, and we got Miss Teresa on the camera. Always. Well, we got a Chevelle that come back in. We did tuning on it. They put a Pro Charger on it. We ended up changing the pulley, putting a smaller pulley on it to make more boost, more power. And when he brought it, and I was doing the tuning on it, I could tell that there was something not right with the transmission. So he brought it back to me, telling me that the tranny just shifts way too soft and stuff, and I was right. There was something wrong with it. So we pulled the tranny out. We got it on the bench, fixing to tear it down. But I wanted to show you what a Pro Charger looks like. Now, you know what a twin turbo is on the Dirty Bird. Got two big old turbos on it. This is a Pro Charger. This is a belt-driven blower. Runs off the crankshaft. Big old wide belt here, cog belt that turns it. Then we blow through a CNS blow-through carburetor. Not fuel injection. Now the little Chevy 2, or I'm not sure exactly what that was. I'm not familiar with those little older body style cars.
Are you talking about
Jeffries? Yeah, is that a Chevy 2? A little box Chevy 2 or something. But anyway, that was a Pro Charger. Remember, it had the big blower sticking out the nose of it. Big old thing in our earlier videos. I'll post a picture of it kind of in this comment area right here of Jeffries. That way you kind of see what a Pro Charger looks like, what a belt drive Pro Charger looks like, and what twin turbos look like.
Well, if they can't tell in our video, things have changed.
Things have changed.
Right. Something else is here. Something else is here.
Yes. Now we always have our customers come back at about 3,000 to 4,000 miles to have their trannies serviced after we rebuild them. And this here is a service that we're going to be doing here today, and the lady will come back and pick it up. But we got a new case all ready to go. Not a new one, but one that's already been cleaned up, ready to go. We've already tapped it here in the back for the vent. Now he does have a canister that will set right about in here that this will plug into. If the tranny gets hot and boils fluid out, it'll put it in his canister.
And we have a new tranny case ready for that unit because
I already know what's wrong with this. This is a common problem with these units. When you start cranking the pressure up on them, you take the waves out of things, you get more solid hits, a lot higher pressure. And
so you know the case isn't any good no more, huh?
No, this case is probably trash.
Uh-oh.
When you see the pieces in the pan on this one, you're going to go, oh my gosh, this tranny's making its own parts.
So are we going to be able to stay back here with this one?
Yeah, I think so.
Just as bad as that one?
This one here is pretty bad, but I think you can stay back here. It took us a few days to get over that 6-speed, huh?
Oh,
or the C4. You remember we got the C4 still here. Now we're waiting for a core on this one to come in. We're supposed to have a core Friday. This thing needs a lot of parts, so we want to tear the core down, which we'll do a video of the core. Because you never know what you get when you pay $200 or $300 for a core. We've got a lot of trash that way, huh, Teresa? You just don't know, but you can always salvage something out of a core that you have to put on the shelves or whatever, and buy another core to finish the job.
Right, because you know the old saying, everybody says, "Well, it worked when I pulled it out." Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, they always work when you pull them out.
Seen those before, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
And we've like I said, I tore down 5 350 cores to get one good case for that 350 the other day.
Correct.
So now this tranny has hardly no miles on it. Physically, almost none. Now this was done by a shop here in town. We would have done the tranny for him, but we were in the process of moving. So he had no choice but to take it somewhere else, which is what happened. Now these, you can get a narrow bushing and a wide bushing for this tail housing. The wide bushing is going to stick out a little bit. See how it sticks out of the housing a little bit? But it still gives it a lot better support. The bushing is put in correct. It's flush on this end. But the wide bushing is going to stick out like that. That is normal. Gasket right here.
I have to turn that fan off.
A little chilly, huh? It's cold outside. We are fixing to be in the 20s at nighttime here. Once it starts changing like that, then
What
it
makes
really,
it hard for us is the wind.
yeah, we get a
They
lot of
say,
wind.
oh, we're going to have a little bit of wind. No, that feels like land hurricanes. That's
Definitely
what
hot.
I call it.
Now, being that this is a Transbrake, there's not going to be anything under this cover. Won't be no governor or anything like that. I like to flip them over and put them like that, but you can, you know, put it like that. But I usually flip it over. Anything. I guess the builder's choice. Now, normally we'd have had a vacuum modulator here. Since we have a Transbrake now, we do away with the modulator and we put a plug in there. And we put the valve back in, and the plug will hold the valve all the way forward in the bore. So, but once you do this right here, this tranny goes to max pressure. It ain't no different than taking the vacuum line off of it, or when you put the car on the floor and you're racing it and the vacuum goes away, the tranny goes to max pressure. Well, this does away with it. This does away with it and just blocks it totally. So that's one thing right there that can cause a big problem with high pressure. I'm going to show you when I get a little deeper in here how we're going to lower the pressure in this tranny to where it'll survive when you do things like this.
Is this the car from the car lot guy?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. We have a nice PTC converter. I said this thing still has a grease on it, you know, from them lubricating and stuff. You can tell here though, anytime you get metal in something and you got pressure on it, you can see how the metal got in between the pump gear, and the hub, and you can see what it does to it. The metal just beats it up. A lot of pressure on this hub. You can see that right there. Luckily that's still good. You can just see it. That's not going to hurt anything on a new gear, but once we get the metal out of it. Now we should be able to flush this converter and save it.
Fingers crossed.
Keep our fingers crossed, but I just wanted you to see that right there.
That's crazy.
How that does that. But that's metal getting in between here and the gear just sitting there tapping on the metal. If we get in the pan on this, you'll see what I'm talking about. You can see what the fluid looks like. Looks really bad. Of course,
we saw worse.
See what that looks like.
This has got a lot of metal in it, doesn't it?
A lot of metal.
Yeah, I wasn't when you pulled the pan off. Oh.
And I believe there's some more chunks that are down in here.
That looks like a snap ring right there that's attached to that little. Oh, no, some of that looks like a gear too.
There's all kinds of pieces in there. But you can see what the fluid looks like.
Yeah.
Just terrible looking. Now this being a Transbrake, this should have a screen filter where it'll be a high flow, what we call a high flow. Got a magnet that's trying to catch something. That's why that magnet ain't, if you notice, a lot of that ain't sticking to that. A lot of it is, but I think a lot of that's aluminum. Now we do have a high flow filter. This is a screen style. You could possibly clean this filter if you want to spend hours and hours trying to get all the metal out and saving it. But if you had a standard filter of material in there, it'd definitely be gone. But why we go with the screen is because we need a lot of volume of fluid going through that filter, and a cloth filter will not supply enough fluid to go through it. We have this is a longer neck for the filter. If you have a shallow pan, the tube's going to be smaller or shorter. Of course, we always put 2 seals on this. Oops. Did that get you? It kind of felt like it hit me in the face. But we put 2 seals on there. Because this is
it did hit you in the face, yeah.
But this is above fluid level, so it's easy to suck air around this neck if the seal gets bad. That's why we always double seal that. Fluid level is about pan level, so that's way above it. Now this is a Transbrake valve body here. This is the solenoid here. They use the passing gear connector to operate it. In other words, this here will go to a button on the steering wheel or on the shifter. You apply this solenoid and it puts it in forward and reverse at the same time. You let go of the button, it releases the reverse and the vehicle accelerates forward. Normally this would be your passing gear connector. You're going to have different bolt lengths. I'm not sure whose this is. Transspecialty makes a really nice Transbrake valve body. It kind of looks like one of theirs. But, you know, you have to disassemble this totally and get all that metal out of there. I mean, it's a lot of metal. And you notice we have the 3 7/16 bolts right there. And then we have that one right there. And I couldn't remember exactly what size that was, so I'm going to have to find it. Oh, we got lucky. There we go.
Always has to be one out of the bunch.
Seems a little excessive on the tightness there on that little bolt. Of course, it's special. Put it over in the special pile. And then we have our 7/16 here. Now this valve body will not have a gasket at all. It will have a plate, and some if it's Transspecialty, it should have a check ball in here. And see that check ball, that big one?
Wow, that's a big check ball.
That's a big one.
I've never seen that before.
It goes right in there. Like I said, there's no gasket on either side of this, but you can definitely see the metal. Lots of metal. And we have our center support bolt here. Oops. Almost got me. Now this is a hollow bolt. We have oil that goes through it. We have oil that travels through this channel and this channel. Now this is your reverse servo here and your 3rd gear accumulator. This here applies your band down through here. Your reverse or 3rd gear accumulator is here. Now you will be leaving the seals off here, there and there. See this? There's nothing there no more. If you're building back a factory one, you'll put seals back on there. And then through here is your band. Isn't that pretty? Pretty color. Your parking mechanism right here. You can leave that on there for right now. Now you do have a little nail right here. See that nail? I always take and bend it up because if you turn this over in the parts washer and you start washing it, that nail will fall out. And that's what keeps your shifter shaft in. So I just take and put a slight bend in it. Now, you notice all the check balls are missing. That one, that one, that one, that one. Even the one in the reverse trough here is missing. You notice they did have washers. These washers have rubber on both sides of them to seal the bolt to the pump body, but I still always put a little bit of silicone on there. I want a double seal. You have pressure going through here and your cooler line pressure going through over here, and every time I pull these apart, there's always oil in these holes here. So, okay, this is why the tranny's destroyed. We'll get down in here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is upsetting, actually, because this shop knows better than this. Whoever built this was trying to be a genius. And if you notice, this is your pressure regulator assembly here. You got your boost valve here and your pressure regulator. See how much stacked they got that? I wish I had another pump here real quick to show you. Let me see what I got down here. I got stuff laying everywhere. Let me see. Hopefully I got something. That's power drive. I don't have I got a 400 pump stator and body, but I don't have what I need. But anyway, this spring normally is about flush down here. You can see how much washers or whatever they spaced up in here to try to give this tranny this type of pressure to last behind this ProCharge motor. But the deal is they put so much pressure in it and probably never checked it with a gauge, and now they destroyed the case down inside, and I'll get down in there and show you what I'm talking about. This thing's probably going to try to come out like a rocket.
That's what I was going to say.
Because that's a lot of pressure. Dang it.
If you can get it out.
Yeah, it's definitely good. Well, they got that thing probably put it in a vise to get that out of there.
Wow.
I mean, that's a lot of spring. I've never seen one crush that much. I'm scared to stick my head over it.
Well, yeah. Black eye.
Okay, I got it. Had to ruin the snap ring, but oh well. Let me get this out of there and see how they did all this stuff here. Oh my gosh. That's stuck solid. So much metal in there. What we've got is, you can see this. I thought they had it stacked a lot more than what they did, but they didn't. They actually had it in correctly. I don't want to make sure I say that. They had it in there correctly. But I have learned, when you start putting these Transbrakes in here, if you leave that little U-shaped washer on there, this tranny is going to make about 240 psi. And physically, with that on there, that is too much. It'll wipe the pump plumb out. It'll break things in the case. So if we do them, we're going to put that back only with this guide. This is a guide right here. See it? How it sits there. Let me see if I can get that valve out of it. That valve is really stuck. It won't move at all. Okay, there it goes. Okay. And another thing, you really want to be careful and make sure you put the right valve in these. They make two different valves. But you can see how this little U-shaped washer sets on there. The guide sets on top of it. The spring goes like that. That way the guide is the spring in the center of the valve. We always leave that off. Put it back just like that. And this tranny will still have 220 psi. Just like that. Anytime we use a Transbrake, we always go with a metal sleeved boost valve. No aluminum. Only metal. Steel. Let's get this apart down in here and see if they did. Now we only use Teflon rings. When we go to a Transbrake, a steel ring will not handle the pressure. It'll take it out within miles. You have to go with a Teflon ring. You can see here they did do some spacing because this is a 350 stator pump washer spacer. So They did do a clearance setting. Now this pump is probably going to be really wiped out. See if it goes side to side very far. It really doesn't go much side to side. Now this is a better body too. They picked a good body. But you can see here, look at the pump gear. Just wasted. And what causes that is high pressure tries to take this pump gear and shove it sideways in this body. Now GM did come out with a little groove they put in here that overlaps over to the pressure regulator valve. That way they put lube oil on this back side of this gear right here, because this side of the gear right here tries to run dry. And why it does it is because this gear is pushed so hard this direction, it shoves all the oil out of here. The earlier pumps did not have. Then they started adding some more oil back on the back side of the gear. That way to eliminate the wear problem. Now here, you can look here. This is what I was talking about here. This gear is really wore out right in here. See that? They had good depth. In other words, you can see the converter was all the way in really nice. Almost took up the whole lug. Really nice where they put that in there. And this did not have any spacers behind the flywheel. This thing's got a flywheel that is unbelievable. I mean, a beautiful flywheel on it. 2-piece. Actually, the ring gear even bolts to the flywheel. And I bet that flywheel's that thick. Thick. But you can see here, stick that on there, they had that really nicely deep into the gear. But once you get metal in between here, this thing's got so much metal, you get it trapped in there, this is just going to sit here and just smash the metal. So you can, let's go here. If you look here, this is a must too. They didn't restrict the feed hole to the converter. This needs to be tapped and then re-drilled to about 110 thousandths. That way we don't have the converter pressure so high trying to shove the converter out of the tranny and trying to shove the crankshaft forward in the motor. You'll take out the thrust on the motor. So this right here has to be done on every Transbrake unit, period. I don't care if you're putting it behind a Ford, Chrysler, or whatever. You put a Transbrake in a 400, a Power Glide, or anything like that, you better restrict the charge pressure going to the converter. So, but anyway, this pump's totally junk. Ain't nothing left of it. All wore out here, all the way around. Just really bad shape. Gasket was installed right. We got our cooler line entrance and out exits right here. There and there. You remember on our C4, the gasket was flipped over and the cooler lines were plugged off, so did some really nice damage to that. And we have a forward drum here. The input shaft, this is just all stock stuff. There's nothing expensive about that or no upgrade. This thing made 1,000 and something horsepower, and we just upgraded the blower pulley and stuff to make even more than that, so 12 to 1,400 or whatever. But we got all kinds of problems here. You can see this is the forward drum. You can see here where it's been rubbing on the third gear drum, the high reverse drum. This is a reverse clutch and a third gear clutch. So it's rubbing right there. Something shoved that drum forward, started taking out this thrust washer, grooved this is a billet hub. Tried to shove that washer through there because this washer and everything set up should keep these drums from touching. The way this is spaced, this drum should not be able to touch that drum. Okay. Now we do have a wave in it, which is okay. This is a street car. You know, if he was going to go all out drag racing, I might take the wave out. I'm not sure what that converter flashes or stalls. You take the wave out, you're going to get a harsher engagement. You know, if it has a 3,000 stall, you take the wave out, you're not going to notice it. But if it doesn't and you take the wave out, it's got a stock torque converter, it's going to jar your teeth when you put it in gear. The stock converter will soak up the hit going into gear. So this is sad. Well, it's not sad, but as long as I can save it. This is a nice billet aluminum drum.
But look how scratchy it
Right.
is.
See how that drum was rubbing on that drum? They shouldn't be able to touch. So I don't know what they got going on here, but that's something when I assemble it back, I'm really going to have to look at some things. But the way the tranny destroyed itself, this is your second gear clutch here. It's encaged behind this snap ring that blew out. See, all the lugs were busted off. Once that blew out, it was capable of coming up and touching the back side of this drum and shoving it forward every time it went into second gear. And that's what started causing this drum to rub. Now, why we're seeing so much aluminum in here is because it shaved all this aluminum off this drum here, shaved all the aluminum off this drum here. That's why the magnet wasn't picking it up. Now, this is a lightweight drum. It's got a steel insert here for your rings. We want to be able to save this. So we'll get in here, look at the Sprag assembly, check this drum out. So this is probably a, oh my gosh, $500, $600, $700, $800 upgrade right here, just this drum. And we go to great lengths to save things, guys. So if I can't get this apart, and I might not be able to, I'm going to have to come in here and just try to clean up some of these lug areas right here so this plate will come out. The snap ring groove looks really good down in here, so everything else looks like we're going to be able to save this drum. It's just getting it cleaned up to get it out and rebuild it. Take this apart, make sure our Sprag assembly, the inner and outer race looks really good. So this is a really big upgrade for a 400. Now if you get down in here and look, see how this is all blowed out through there? Snap ring ain't even holding no more. I'll look at this snap ring and see what snap ring they used here. Yeah, I don't know about. I like to use the 727 Chrysler or the 48RE Chrysler forward drum snap ring. It's wide like this, but it's a little thicker. So I don't know what they got going here. Let's see if I can get this out.
I may not be able to get that out.
That don't look good neither, does it? Oh, there we go. Now, anytime we do these, we're going to put 4 clutches in this thing. We're going to put the 4L80E clutch assembly in here and get 4 clutches for second gear. Now that's not going to save the snap ring from blowing out or anything like that, but that extra clutch we put in here is definitely going to upgrade the second clutch pack a ton just by adding 1 clutch. Now, you see here we got 3 clutches. They're all thick steels. The 4L80E will have 4 clutches and thin steels. The thin steels and the thin clutches will give you enough room to get that extra clutch in there. Now they did take the wave out. This normally would be a wave plate here to cushion the second gear shift. Now when you take this out, you raise your pressure to 240 psi. The next time it goes into second gear, it's going to really smack that snap ring. Bang, bang, every time it goes into second gear. And it's going to knock these lugs off the case right here. See, all this stuff is apart too, so normally that would come out with a support. Let me get the piece of snap ring down here, and I want to get it out of the way. There we go. Now this is a bevel snap ring down here. The bevel goes outward. The flat part goes inward. Got a bevel. Now always stick the opening. This opening right here is a major problem for a 400 tranny. You always want to stick the snap ring opening over here, not in the opening here, because it can break the tips of the snap rings off, or it'll work on these lugs right here on the edges and break these off. Once it starts breaking these off, it just goes ping, 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 and the next thing you know, it just starts blowing it out, or blowing the clutch out, since this snap ring's behind it. Now we do have another snap ring down in here that sets in the bottom of the case, or not in the bottom, but right down in here below the center support. And why they do that is they stick it right behind here. That way when you stick the support in, it sets on this snap ring. They do make a thick and a thin support. If you have a thick support, you do not use the snap ring. If you have a thin support, you have to use the snap ring. If you put it in there and without the snap ring on a thin one, this thing's going to rock back and forth in the case. If you put the thick get snap ring. Okay, so
I already see a problem.
you can see here, this is all blown out. The pieces that normally were right here. You had this piece in there, you had this piece in there, and then you had this snap ring. Well, once this piston that blew that out, this was able to come plumb out. And this tells you the pressure this thing had, guys. It was capable of blowing this snap ring out too.
Yeah.
Look at that. Just blew all that out. That's high pressure when that starts doing that. This might not open far enough for that. Because like I said, this would normally set in there. You'd put these springs like that. There's another one somewhere. You stick that in there, you put this down in there, and like that. And this keeps your intermediate piston in the support. You know, you let off, or gets out of second gear, them springs will push the piston back. Also, if you get any cross leaks or anything like that, these springs are designed to keep the piston back. If you have a little bit of cross leak from another gear or something like that, trying to apply it, these springs keep that from happening. Now, on this one here, your third gear drum here, we'll go back to it real quick. They add a bleed orifice hole. You can see it could be that one, it could be this one. I'm going to have to get here and look. This drum could have a check ball in the drum. We add a bleed orifice, or the drum won't have a check ball. We add a bleed orifice, but the piston will have a check ball. I wish I'd get this out of there. I hate that. Lip right there. I just have to clean this up to get that out of there, but I kind of wanted to look at that. We definitely want to save this drum. This is a big upgrade. It's got some stuff right there that I'm just going to have to clean up to get this part. Oh, there it goes. There's a part. I think there's another one over here. There we go. Got a few hot spots on it. This drum is really light in your hand. It weighs nothing compared to the factory steel drum. Of course, we have waffle clutches here, which on this unit here, we would use the Allison school bus clutches. The green, really high metallic, really aggressive clutch. Of course, factory, this tranny could have had a wave in third gear. Anytime you build race car stuff, you always leave the wave out of third gear. It's going to cause a little bit of a harsh engagement in reverse. But like I said, if you have a stall converter or something, you're not going to notice it. And you notice here, I told you about the check ball being in the piston. That little check ball right there. Mm-hmm. Some of them, they don't have a check ball in the piston. It's in the drum. So you don't want to put two check balls. Oh. That's a nice drum right there. We'll clean that up and reuse that for sure. And then we have our reverse band here. These things here, they usually start wearing on the tips first, and then the tips go metal to metal and start grinding on the drum. They do make two style bands. They make a smooth band and then they make a coarse band, depending on what drum you have. 4L80E normally is a smooth drum and smooth band 400s usually have a coarse band, coarse drum. We have a roller clutch here. See, some of the rollers fell out. So on this here, you want to check and make sure your pins ain't purple. Make sure your pins haven't walked out. They like to walk this way. And when they do that, they like to wipe out this thrust washer right here. That 4 tabs. It likes to wipe that washer out if the pin moves out. We always take and come in here and TIG weld these 4 pins. That way they can't move. If they did move, you can take and tap them back down in. Give you some clearance. And then come in here and TIG them. I always like to 180 these drums like this, get them really coarse, helps them a bunch. Your sun gear, if you notice it's flat on this side, got a bevel on that side, you want to make sure you put the flat on the, like that. You do not want to put the bevel because it'll fall down in the hole. You want the flat. You don't have to line the hole up because it's grooved all the way around. And the sun gear is grooved all the way around in here. If you want to be a genius, you can line the hole up. And it's just direct port though. But it doesn't matter how you put it. It's still going to find its way.
Yeah.
Piece of cake.
Piece of cake.
I'm missing something here. I'm missing a thrust washer right here. Not down in there. I never even saw it. So we're missing a thrust washer here. It's not there. I don't see it. That could be why they had to set the clearance on this unit. They left something out. Now like this right here, we would have roller bearinged in the back of the case. We'd use a 350 pump washer. A different, you can use the same case bushing, but we like to leave them up about that high. That way when you put the bearing and stuff in there, it'll keep the bearings centered. But we do away with the thrust washer and this race down there. But what we do is we do away with this plastic one, and then this one you take off the bottom will fit right in here. It will set. So you got your 4 tabs. That will set right in there. Look at that. And I'd rather get rid of this plastic and put a brass washer there, especially in race car stuff. Let me look and see if my washer's here. There it is. It just didn't fall out. I had to find it, guys, so we weren't missing a washer. I got to. We do have a bushing here. You always want to make sure that you take it below flush because of the way this is bushing bearing here is designed. I get off there. Man, these gloves are slippery. You have a lip sticking up. So your bearing, your bushing has to be below flush. That centers that. If you don't, that's going to hit it. You're going to break the bearing, going to make all kinds of brass. You have a bearing here. Some of these bearings can be the earlier design where there's a roller every other roller, and some of them will have rollers all the way around like this one does. A lot of them are missing every other roller, and I always go find the bearings that have all the rollers. Parking mechanism looks really good. This is where the parking pawl locks into. Again, check the gears, make sure they don't wobble, pins ain't purple or anything like that, any pitting. And of course we have a case, another case that is destroyed. Now they do make a kit since you're leaving your engine brake band out. See that anchor right here? And this servo was left out. That's That's where your engine brake band would have went. Let me see if I see one down in here. Yeah, I don't see one. But when you do a Transbrake, you leave that band out. But they do make a kit that you can knock that pin out right there, and it's an L-shaped bracket that comes down and touches. You got your top hat for your second gear, right? You stick that down in there, and that you take that out and you put your bracket in, and the bracket sets on this snap ring where this opening right here is. It comes down and touches the snap ring. That way the snap ring can't come up right here so easy. So that's a good piece to put in there. That might have protected it a little bit from blowing that case out. But like I said, anytime you leave that U-shaped spacer on the pressure regulator valve, you're gonna have high pressure. You better put a gauge on it and see what you're having, because all pumps are different. It might have 260. You don't know until you put a gauge on it and see what you physically done to it. If you just put it in the car and go with it, you have no clue what you're giving the customer without putting a gauge on it. But Teresa, pretty bad, huh? Definitely pretty bad. Well, guys, we really appreciate watching, and ladies, for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, push your notification bell, and we got a lot more coming, huh, Teresa? One after another.
Yeah.
Have a fabulous day.